Hi, everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Carol Dao. I am an international shaman and healer, and these are my thoughts this morning. I just finished a meditation, and I wanted to talk about the first time that I was able to send back a soul fragment to a person living on this human plane. So, soul fragmentation and soul retrieval go hand in hand because when you are experiencing some type of trauma or some type of experience that does not feel good to the body and soul, your soul will and can fragment off. And your soul can fragment, and these fragments and these pieces of your soul can be left with a person, a place, a thing. And we walk around with holes in our soul. Like we walk around with holes in our esoteric bodies, our auric field, and we don't feel whole. And a lot of people, um, especially people in regards to addiction, any type of too much behavior, they feed these empty spots of their soul, and they feed it with too much food and drugs and alcohol and cigarettes and whatever it is, and it's never going to be enough. It's never going to be enough when we're talking about the feeding of this like black abyss of your soul. I actually ended up I wrote an article about a year and a half ago. It's called The Abyss of Addiction, and where I talk about this black void in your soul. And no one really talks about that because it's a constant feeding, and I don't care what you feed it. It could be a too much behavior of like exercising too much. Like that's a too much behavior because you're distracting yourself from what's really happening inside. And so a lot of times people will pivot, and they'll go from one vice to another. They're sober for 20 years of sobriety of from alcohol, but they are smoking, chain smoking cigarettes. They are so promiscuous. They are just filling that same hole with a different too much behavior. And that's basically on a spiritual level. That's soul fragmentation, and you need to find someone who is versed in soul retrieval to find those parts of your soul that fragmented off, no matter where, when, or how, and then retrieve it back. Those people are shamans. And I was born a shaman, and I never stated that I was a shaman. I just called myself a healer because I could do so many things. When people would come to me, I was able to I was able to sit there, look at them, and figure out exactly what their soul needed on the healing level. And I never had official training. I was born that. So my job was to remember who I was and why I was on this earth plane. And how did I do that? Well, I trained myself really. It was self-taught, self-training in regards to honing my intuition and my experiences and setting the patterns and learning about myself. It's really mastering yourself. I mastered who I am and who I was in order for me to serve other people, in order for me to even sit here and speak to you guys about it. Because there are many people out in this world that they'll do a 10-hour, 50-hour, 100-hour certificate for a shaman. And, that's nice. I mean, these teachings are amazing and they're great, but after, I don't know, even with Reiki, right? There's Reiki 1, 2, and then master, but how do you call yourself a master when you literally have 100 hours under your belt? When you master something, when you're an expert at it, it's minimum 10,000 hours, minimum. And you can do that exactly, like absolutely within a year. You could become a master at something within a year time frame if you put in the work and effort. But how many people are going around putting the work and effort in really in their own self-healing, self-development, self-mastery? So going back to the first time that I sent a fragment of a woman by really just walking into the room. And I walked into this room because I was checking out apartments and houses in Southern California. And I walked into a room, and it was the only room in the house that I really did not align with, everything else was really clean. It was really clean energy. And I walked into the room and I could feel and sense something happened in there that was not good. And it was a Spanish woman, and she was about 14, 13, 14. And when I stood in that empty room, I started having visions of what was happening, what happened to her. And she lived in that room, and that was in the room that her cousin, her male cousin, would rape her. And in that moment, she would detach herself from her body. So she left her body. And a lot of times when women and men are raped and it's repeated, they we can leave our body. We could leave our body to not experience that. We can detach our souls from our bodies to not experience. That's just stopped. So the video just stopped, and I don't know if my battery is running low, but the we're talking about trauma and rape and in the spirit realm and what was happening, especially to this woman that I was able to send back her soul fragment of when she was raped by her cousin. And as I stood in the room, and this was before I was still in the mortgage business, you guys. But I stood in the room and I closed my eyes and I took that soul fragment and I sent it back to her. And at that moment in 2015, was it 2015 or 14? I think it was 2014. I sent back that soul fragment to her, and she was in her 40s during that time, and I could feel her, and I could feel her, and she was at work, and it was in the middle of the day, and she became whole. And that was the first time that I was able to do that and realized I was able to do that, but I didn't even know what I was doing. I just did it. And that was the beginning of one of the I mean, I've always been this way. I just never allowed myself to remember because I was living in this human existence and I was running on fear and living the Orange County lifestyle and money, money, money and all that thing, all this stuff. Um, but limiting beliefs in money, money is just energy. Now, knowing that. But before, I was so attached to it. And that was the first time I did my soul retrieval for a woman who was raped when she was younger. So, um, yeah. And those who at this moment are saying that they can do soul retrieval and on the different dimensions and planes, any anyone who's listening, you're watching this, you just have to be very cognizant and mindful of who you're dealing with because right now spirituality is a trend and people are chasing whatever title they can get and put on their resume, on their, I don't know, social media, coach, life coach, spiritual coach, shaman, healer, master of whatever it is. And they're doing that to it's not I really don't feel a lot of people are doing it for because they're passionate about it. It's because it's a trend and they know that they can make money and so they do it. And as a master of spirit releasement and soul retrieval, and I've been doing this for over 6 years now. And I am that person that I fragmented my soul on purpose to a million pieces in all parts of the world to try to retrieve it. I'm also the same person who allowed a demonic being entity to enter my body so my first two students, could release it from me. So yeah, I'm a little bit wild and crazy like that. But I just wanted these are my 2 cents about soul retrieval and soul fragmentation. And we all are walking around with holes in our esoteric bodies and auric fields because we've all had some type of trauma. Not all, but most. I'm gonna say like 99.9% of the population. And and when we talk about holistic, not HOLIST, no, Holistic, but Tistic, Tistic. Woo! Um, it's coming back to the wholeness of who we are. And on a spirit realm, you can chase whatever you want. On a human realm, on a human level, you can chase whatever you want. But until you find those pockets that you're feeding and fill it up with whatever like it needs to be filled up with, and actually find the root of it, the plug that's below, you're going to keep on chasing. And that's just a lot of exerted energy. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day and many, many blessings.